Welcome to another episode of Financial Literacy 101, Closing the Wealth Gap. I'm Robert Scott, and on today's episode, I'm bringing in a special friend, and she's going to talk to you all about nonprofit organizations. Well, there's no sense in delaying. Let's get right to it. I'm going to bring on from Dallas, Texas, Miss Olaremi Sano. Hold on. Let's see if we can bring her in. Olaremi, how you doing?
Hey, Robert, how are you?
Good. Hopefully I'm not. Did I get it correct?
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
Okay.
Olaremi.
Olaremi. Okay. So, Olaremi, I know I haven't seen you in quite a while. How's everything going? How's you been doing during COVID?
Everything is fine. We've been actually pushing through during COVID, just working, transforming into what we can do from home. Everybody kind of made some transitions together, and we are, keeping it moving.
Good. So, tell the people a little something about yourself and basically how you got to to start your nonprofit organization. How did that come about?
So, well, I've been in the arts for like most of my adult years, 25 plus years as a professional dance instructor and 17 years in a row as a dance studio owner. So I've always been somewhat familiar with nonprofits and anything that kind of helps our program efforts go. For the most part, I ran a for-profit dance studio, but I've always dabbed back and forth in nonprofit and had a lot of experience with grant writing ever since graduate school with grant writing. And so basically, as I decided to go ahead and not be in brick and mortar business anymore with the dance studio, I transformed back into what we can do and continue to make an impact. And that became nonprofit. So my nonprofit is Pihankra Global Education, basically expanding people's mindsets, helping them understand the world more, more than their own myopic understanding of their own location and, other cultures and what that means, ethnicity and what that means beyond race. So my nonprofit basically is a teaching mechanism. And what we do is teach people through travel, teach people through events and activities, and teach people through mindset experiences that kind of help them, grow and expand their mindset.
Okay. So exactly. Hold on, let me turn the mic down.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah. So basically, what is a nonprofit and why would somebody want to start a nonprofit?
That's a good question. So a nonprofit, let me just start with the myths. First of all, nonprofits, a nonprofit does not mean that you do not make money. It does not mean that you're not running a business. Of course, we know some awesome nonprofits that are making an impact, that are doing very well, that are multi-million-dollar operations that impact a lot of people. A nonprofit basically means that the money that you're bringing in, if you're going to be a charitable organization, meaning you get more than 30% of your income from other resources like grants and donations and sponsorships and that thing, then you are giving those resources to do the cause that you set yourself up as a nonprofit to do. There are other types of nonprofits that are private nonprofits, meaning that 30% or more of their income comes from someone who is privately giving that money. So for instance, athletes, they have nonprofits. A lot of times they want to put their money somewhere that makes a difference and that, helps impact people in different ways. And a lot of times they're doing that not only just to help people, but also it helps them to manage their income so that they're not being taxed on a lot of the income that they have. So they're doing something great and they're doing something with their income and putting it in a safe place to do it with. So there's a private nonprofit and a public charitable nonprofit.
And is there one? I don't know what this is.
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. Is there one that you suggest people have over the other?
Well, one is if you don't have the money and income to fund a private nonprofit, then you want to do a public nonprofit because it allows you to solicit funds, from other people, from private donors, friends, family, coworkers, church members. It allows you to solicit money from, grants and government contracts and things like that. So that's easier for people to, as a business model, for people to start a public charitable nonprofit than it is a private nonprofit, unless they have, some sort of big pot of money over here that they want to do something really, really good with.
Now, if I wanted to start one myself, how hard would it be versus me hiring a person like you to get it done for me?
Well, I do it every day. So this is what I do. I actually train people to start their nonprofits. We start from zero and we go all the way through to their full vision of what they want to do. For me, I've actually mastered the process in that I came up with something that people can do and complete in a 2-week process. So what I mean by that is we actually start at zero. We get your business infrastructure together. We're creating a 16-page packet that ends up being the infrastructure for your business. And we do all the filings that you need with the state that you live in, with the IRS, because those are two different filings. And we do everything that we need to do to structure your nonprofit, to structure your budgets that go along with what you're going to do. So you have a vision, that's one side. Then you have a budget, what's going to pay for that vision. And then you have a strategic plan, the implementation of that vision. So from start to finish, we take about 2 weeks to shape it all up, get all your filings in. In that 2 weeks, you start getting your filing back from the state, at least, and the IRS may take a little bit longer. But in that process, we're creating a project and a packet, an organizational overview packet that then you can use right at the end of that 2 weeks to go ahead and start filing for grants. So what people don't know is in the process of getting your state certificate of formation back and getting your IRS, which may take a little longer, you can still go ahead and start applying for grants. So that's, yeah. So really what they need is the business plan. And that's what I help people do.
Okay. Now, are there a lot of grants out there?
Oh, MG. There's so many. First of all, there have always been so many grants and not enough people to get grants. I knew that early on because in college, I wrote grants. In graduate school, I wrote grants. When I first started in business, I wrote grants. I've written grants for things as small as a fax machine to all the way up to funding a program that I needed or wanted to do in my dance studio. And so there are tons of grants for anything and everything. There's some that are very specific. There are some that are very expansive. And so there are even grants specifically to get a building, like capital grants. So, and land grants, if you wanted to get land, or land grants. So people just need to know that, you know, whatever vision they have, there's money already out there for it. Why people are limited in getting money sometimes is because they don't understand how to connect that vision that they have to the resources. And that's where they need a mentor. That's where you need somebody to kind of guide you in the process, help you understand the process, and also help you create like a winning organizational structure or organizational overview so that you can tell people what you're about in a concise way, but full enough to get some money for it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are they, you know, any specifically for Black women?
Oh, yeah. Well, so Visa has one right now for $10,000 for Black women. Essence has one right now for Black women. I think that one might be about $100,000. I know Sundial Companies has one for Black women. There are tons of grants out there right now for Black women. The other thing is that not all of them are, excuse me, not all of them require a 501c3 or nonprofit. Some of those grants out there for Black women are available for people who just have a scalable idea, or people who have like a social enterprise, you know, something that is for the community and community development, but they may not want to go the nonprofit route. So there are tons of grants out there right now for Black women.
Okay. So the grants are not specific to what you do. It's just money in general, and I can use the money to do whatever it is that I want to do. What's the exact breakdown in terms of when I get funds in, regardless to how much it is, how much of it needs to be, I guess, allocated to the nonprofit side, and how much of it can be allocated to salaries or things of that nature?
That's a good question. So that's one of the things that I train on, and that is really it pertains to operational budget and how you use the money. So there are two different types of funds, right? We call it restricted funds and non-restricted funds. So you may do a fundraiser, or you may raise money, doing something that you came up with, an idea that you came up with, your volunteer base or your staff, and you go out and do something and you raise the money. Those are unrestricted funds. There may be other resources that you have coming in that someone gave you money for, that you said maybe you wanted to do something with youth. You did something in the area of youth development or youth entrepreneurship. And so this particular company gave you a grant to do this with youth entrepreneurship. those types of funds are called restricted funds. They're restricted to the use that you said you wanted to use the money for. And then 9 times out of 10, they're going to ask you for a final report on those funds. So you have to give them data and statistics and information about how the program went, how many people you impacted, and that type of thing. So in terms of salaries, and operational funding, what I usually tell people is out there in the nonprofit world, you want to stay 30% or less on your operational administrative side. If you're getting $180,000, you need to take that times 30% and say, okay, this amount is going toward administrative operational, and the rest is going to be spent on programming and development, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. So you want to, my particular private practice is to do 25% or less on administrative operational. And that way you stay in a good habit of doing it. You always show some good, outcomes, and you want to continue to get funding. So you want to show good personal habits in budgeting.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I've always heard about you have to have a committee, or you have to have a board, and it's this big, convoluted thing. You got to, can you shed some light on that?
Sure. So no, you don't have to have a big anything. A lot of people think that. What I usually tell people to do is, one, you want to have people around you who have a protracted understanding of business. That's extremely important. If they don't have a protracted understanding of business, meaning like they start here, it's going to take you 1 to 3 years to really get this vision off the ground. You need people who can go the way with you, right? You don't want people who have a short-term understanding or have short patience or have short commitment to something. And so when you first get started, I tell people U+2, you want to have a board, but you want to start, it can be U+3, right? You want to have a board, but you want to start with people who have a really, really solid understanding of your vision and who have a little bit of chops in what you're trying to do. They have a little bit of experience in what you're trying to do. They also need to be people who your board members need to be people who can attract other people to your vision. And so when it's time to raise money or bring awareness toward an event or an activity or help promote, those people need to be people who can bring that type of energy to your business. So you don't need to start super big. You need to start super quality. You need to have a lot of quality, high quality, low numbers. That's my preference. Now, I do know people who have boards, like really solid boards that are like 7 people deep, 8 people deep, that type of thing. But most of those people are people who have been in either other businesses with those folks, or they've known them for a very long time. They know their running record. You know what I mean? They might be part of the same type of organizational efforts or something like that. And so they get in there and they all do the work together. I just got off of a Zoom with one of them. That's Black Man Lab in Atlanta, and they all work like that. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, how about if I got bad credit, or if I maybe got a record or something like that? What are the challenges that one would have with entry into that space?
So starting a nonprofit is not very difficult. What you do have to do is you have to get an employee identification number that is separate from your social security number, because that employee identification number, or a tax ID number, the IRS calls it, becomes your social security number for your business. And so for nonprofits, when you're applying for that, they use your social security number. So they don't go say, hey, do you have a felony record? They don't say any of that. You know what I mean? But you do want to, so it's not difficult. Basically, you get online, you can apply online for an employee identification number, and then you use that employee identification number to apply then for your 1023, which is the nonprofit, the 501c3 nonprofit application. So it's really not a difficult process at all. You do need to be walked through it, because there are some questions on there that are very particular. And if you answer the questions in a certain way, then you'll be either, approved or not approved. But you do want someone who has that experience to help you walk through it.
Okay. So are there any resources that you would suggest that one could take a look at, maybe to try to spark an idea as to what type of nonprofit, or should it be based on some passion or some mission that you have?
So I have a thing called Spark and Flow with Ola Rainey, and that basically is, I do a weekly webinar on Thursdays at 7 p.m. that's free, and it really kind of helps people explore what they want to do. Every single Thursday at 7 p.m., I do an open webinar that people can hop on Zoom. They do have to show their face or themselves because I don't do bots and I don't do call-ins for that. And really what we're doing is we're going through a very detailed, organized PowerPoint to really kind of sift through what people want to do in their nonprofit and also give some ideas about some other organizations that are out there doing really well in the nonprofit space. What that does is it helps people understand what their passion and their purpose is. Some people know that already. So you might come knowing and understanding, I'm really passionate about this. I might want to give back in the area of helping young women understand who they are authentically as really just as people, really getting them to understand who they are in personal development for women, for young women. So you might want to start something like that, or there may be somebody else out there let me give you some prime examples. I'm working right now with a family that all has sickle cell or sickle cell trait. The person who started the nonprofit is very young. She has to be definitely under 35, maybe under 30, but her parents are hopping in there with her as well. Her brother and brother-in-law and sister-in-law are hopping in there with her because they have so many people in their family that have either passed from sickle cell or who have it currently as she does. And so they're hopping in as a family. All her board members are people consistent from her family. And that's just something that they're passionate about. They want to give back in that area. One of her aunts that recently passed away with sickle cell, but she was on 3 different boards. So it really is something that people are attached to. It might be, helping out the elderly. It might be, let me go out there and teach people about entrepreneurship or like financial literacy is a huge one. There's tons of money out there for financial literacy because people need the information. Mentoring, recidivism, helping people do something and plug in and not go back to jail. So there's tons of money out there for almost anything that anybody wants to do nonprofit wise.
Now, when it comes to, let's say, selling merchandise, is the nonprofit allowed to sell merchandise, and is it still the same 70-30 split? How does that go?
Nonprofit is allowed to sell merchandise. The thing is with nonprofits, all you're doing is making sure that you have a great accounting system and a great accounting of what you're selling and also what you're using the income for. So where people go wrong is they start taking money from the nonprofit and using it for personal use. And that's not right. What you need to do is, let me give you this. This is part of my training, right? And I say this to emphasize it because I don't think it is emphasized enough. Nonprofit administrators and executive officers that are working part of the nonprofit can get a great salary, and they should get a great salary. A median salary for an executive director for a nonprofit is about $120,000, $130,000. So the thing is, you don't want to shortchange yourself because there's a lot of work that goes into nonprofit development. You want to pay yourself a respectable salary so that you don't, and I'm saying not so that you don't, but so where people go wrong is they try to dip into funds versus understanding the pay structure that can go along with nonprofits so that they don't have to do those types of things. And so the only types of issues that I've seen with nonprofits is where people are appropriating the money, you know what I mean? And they shouldn't do that. If you pay yourself and you understand the median market incomes, then you won't have to do that. And that basically comes also through mentoring. Nonprofits are scalable. You can scale the nonprofit itself as well as you can scale the salaries. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
talk a little bit more about scaling the nonprofit.
So scaling the nonprofit is, okay, you might start out with the first year of maybe like $50,000 budget. And you might end up having the next year $180,000, $190,000 budget. You might end up 3 to 5 years down the line with a $600,000 to $800,000 budget. And that can be because you have then developed a full infrastructure. You might even have a building or have received a capital grant or something like that to build a building by then. You know what I mean? So the scalable budget is based on your programming, based on your vision. If your vision is huge and you might want to have a center, and you might want to have entrepreneurship in one part of that. You might want to have financial literacy in one part of that. You might want to have a video recording studio in one part of that so you can train others to do the same thing. And so your vision might get larger than maybe where you just started. You can start a nonprofit without having a building, in your own home. And all your activities and events can be scheduled events in other people's places or in a YMCA or at a library. So you can start with a smaller budget and then you can scale up over the years. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. So now, every time I raise more money, do I get a raise?
If that's how you plan it, all nonprofit is basically understanding business planning. And so one of the things is you get a raise if you say, for instance, you started yourself out with $40,000 and the next year, so you have executive 1, executive 2, administrative 1, administrative 2. You might have 4 salary positions that you laid out. And you might have started those 2 executive positions out at 40 or 45,000 just because you're starting out and you want to be able to have enough money that goes to programming, but also have enough money to pay a staff. So in the next couple of years, you're not going to stay at 45,000. You might want to increase that to 65,000. The next couple of years, you might have already a projected budget that says by year 3, year 5, these 2 executive positions are going to be at 100K because they need to be because of the scope of the work and the services. You know what I mean? It can even move faster than that. But basically, all it is you laying it out on an actual budget. So we do 2 things. We do operational budgets and we do a capital campaign budget. The operational budget is telling you how much money you need for the actual nonprofit to run for the year. The capital campaign is saying if we had as much money that we needed for all the stuff that we wanted to do right now, that's like a vision board for nonprofits, then this is what it would look like. And you want to go try to raise that amount. But the operational budget is telling you, this is what I have laid out. This is how much I want to spend. And this is how much I can spend on salaries. This is how much I can spend on programs and events. So yes, to answer your question, you can scale your salary.
Okay. Now, I heard you talk about accounting and making sure you have, if the people that see my vision, none of us are accounting majors and we're not good with money, should I hire an accountant or someone who's good with money to be one of the first couple of people who are on my staff?
Most definitely. I outsource all of mine. I mean, I have a person that I've been working with for a very long time who does all of my accounting because I like to focus more on program development. I like to focus more on infrastructure. So infrastructure is a lot of tedious mind thought, and you have to be able to really see how to develop things and always staying ahead in terms of programming and projection. And then you have to be a part of the promotions and all that type of stuff. So I don't really like to look at what I like to look at is if I need a quarterly report pulled, or if I have an annual report pulled, or if I need to pull my taxes from a certain year to be able to provide that for a grant. I just want to pull that. I don't want to do that work. So that, you do need to outsource. If that's not your forte, if you don't have someone on staff who can do it, then yes. And that's another thing you might want to think about early on in terms of developing a relationship with someone who can do, the finances, because that's very important. Grants are very tied to your finances and how clean your books are. So the better you can show, how you dealt with that operational budget throughout the year and what it looks like at the end of the year, the more grants you'll receive.
Okay. Now, does my 501c live forever, or does it have a certain length? That it lasts like an LLC. I think it lasts 20 years or something like that.
No, so it lives forever. You just have to file your taxes. So every year at the end of the year, you have a 990 that you need to file. And if you don't file it for 3 years in a row or more, then you actually will be shut down without you even knowing it. So people just need to know the ins and outs and nuances of that. But you don't get shut down unless you're like a Donald Trump and you don't do anything in your nonprofit.
No, but I definitely would like to start one because you realize I'm into financial literacy. I just am a little confused in terms of how much time I would have to put in, and how that would go. Is it really labor intensive?
Or it's not labor intensive at all. It's basically a nonprofit is a palette. It's an open palette. You can do what you need to do. Like say, for instance, I think in structures and infrastructure, and I think in quarters. Like business people. So just say, for instance, you took a year, 12 months, and you broke it down in your mind in quarters, and you did 2 programs per quarter with your nonprofit. One could be online like this, especially now that everybody is transitioned to being online. So one could be online where you are spending time on a panel, and that panel actually is projected out to various constituencies, and the topic is financial literacy. So you could actually spend a lot of time doing things online that are very, very impactful, where you can start creating data around that. You can have other nonprofits plugging into it, and then you can also start tracking those things. So you haven't spent a lot of time doing that, but it's super impactful. And you can also make it weave it from quarter to quarter. So every single quarter, you're building on that you just taught on a Zoom or something like that to a huge group of people, and your nonprofit is sponsoring that. So that is very quality based. It's very quantitative based, but it's also something that doesn't require a whole lot of time. You can do 2 programs per quarter and be a nonprofit. It's based on your time and your efforts and your strategic planning. You can get a lot of money for doing that. You can get money for training other nonprofits on financial literacy. You know what I mean? So again, that's not high touch. That's you can do that high tech and no touch. You know what I mean? So all you need is the 501c3 to be able to operate effectively and to be able to get money to do that. You can get money to pay yourself and to create some very good programs around financial literacy and train nonprofits all over the nation.
Right. Now, how many 501c3s can one person either own or be a part of?
I would tell people, my advice would be to not involve yourself in. You can have more than one, definitely, but I would say not to over involve yourself in a lot of work that you can't do. You know what I mean? Really, that's a management question. How much work can you manage, or how much can you manage? You might have one. So I know somebody with 3 nonprofits that does it very well. Put it that way. Right. He's involved with a group in one nonprofit, a group of brothers who are all giving back to Black men. He's involved with another one that is more politically and civics education related. And so they do a lot of social justice action, and they do a lot of collective action. They do a lot of action cross-culturally. So that's another one. And then he has another one that is scholarship based, and they give a lot of scholarships. All 3 of those are doing very well. So it's your capacity, basically. What do you have the capacity to do? You know what I mean? Time wise and planning wise. You can have more than one is the answer to that.
Now, why do you think that us as African Americans, on a low scale, we don't go after nonprofits? What is it you think is the biggest challenge that we have? Is it just we don't know?
We don't know. We don't know. And that's one of the things I found out through the pandemic, is because one of the things I started to say, hey, last year, I actually said it as a joke on online. And I said, if you come out of this pandemic and you haven't done something, different with all the time that we have on our hands, is not them, is us, right? Is you, basically. Right. And so one of the things that I knew I could do is help people understand nonprofits, especially after seeing a whole lot of money going out there. And I mentioned this to you before, that right after George Floyd's death last year, a whole lot of companies who've never really said that they were involved with Black lives started looking seriously at Black Lives Matter. That tragedy really impacted the world. And so a lot of companies started throwing all kinds of money on the table, because of George Floyd's death and the tragedy that everybody saw live on TV. A lot of it is targeted, meaning that they were giving money to Black run companies, Black run nonprofits, Black run for-profits. And so, a lot of times we just don't have the information. And what I started doing was sharing that information with people that I knew had a passion and a purpose, and that might have also been making some transition, because some people got laid off during the pandemic. They had a lot of time on their hands, and they needed to do something, and so I have 17 new nonprofits that I've literally helped. I've helped more than that, but 17 that we birthed, since last April in 1 year. All of them are doing well. All of them are doing great on their fundraisers, doing well on their grant writing and receiving grants. All of them are doing well on their program development. They all understand from start to finish what it means to be a nonprofit, how to budget, So for sure, most people don't know what they need to know about budgeting, and that is usually the meat of nonprofits.
Okay. And I think one of the people you helped was Russell,
Yes,
right?
Russell and Janie Charlo. Yep.
Janie Carlo.
Yep.
Let's see. I think I can bring him in. Let's see.
Please,
Russell.
let's get them
Let's
on. Get 'em
see.
on.
Yeah, let's see if we can bring him in here. Let's see. Ah, there they go. Hey, Russ.
Hey,
Hey,
y'all.
Janie. I can't
We
hear you
can hear
guys.
you.
Uh-oh.
I guess it
There you go.
helped if I had my glasses on.
Hey,
Hey,
how are
family.
you?
I see you over there. What you eating, Russ? Chef Russ.
Well, we were finishing up a salad.
Trying to finish it.
We just got our workout in and had to get some grub real quick.
I want
Yes,
to bring you guys
sir.
on because I was talking to Ola Remy. She told me that since last April she had helped 17 people launch their nonprofits, and she mentioned you guys. And so, what type of Janie? What type of nonprofit are you guys trying to start or have started?
Yeah, so we are ready to roll. We're actually going to be launching in the next day or so with Ole Remy's help, Bridge to Healthcare. And it is a nonprofit that's going to focus on physical, mental, spiritual, and relational health. So we are going to bridge everybody that needs healthcare with the people that they can get it from.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Now, do you already have your board and everything together? You guys have all of that?
Said yes. Ole Remy was really, really helpful. When I tell you really helpful, really helpful. The process was quick. It was very seamless. I'm pretty busy. I have a lot of stuff going on, but nonprofit has been something that I have always wanted to do. And when I spoke to her, I showed her notes that I had from years ago. And really, it was just a matter of plugging it all in. What I thought was very helpful with working with Ole Remy was the knowledge base and getting straight to the point and getting forms done effectively and timely. And that was very important for me.
Well, that's good. That's good. So, Remy, I'm definitely going to talk to the people, Remy, about your services. Like, so, I mean, is it a long process? Maybe drop a hint into how much it costs. Hopefully it's not too expensive because, I'm poor. I don't really have that much money. Do you have a payment plan? Talk to the people.
Yeah, we have. So it's not expensive, and expensive is a state of mind. You know that already. So we we also need to know that with anything that we want, you have to spend money on it. You have to invest in yourself in order to get something. So the services take about 2 weeks, right? I try to tailor people in 2 weeks, but I don't slam them into 2 weeks. If it takes a little bit longer than that, it's okay. But the general crux of what we went over earlier can happen in 2 weeks. And that's important because there are always grants available, and on a rolling basis, I'm usually shooting those grants out on private business pages. So every time somebody finishes their work, I encourage them to try to do it in 2 weeks because you can immediately start applying for grants. That's important. Not only that, what happens is a lot of times people need to do strategic planning with themselves, right? When they're trying to start a nonprofit, because if you linger on getting it going, then you might put it on the back burner. You might not ever finish it, but it's not difficult work. All of it is, I have a work list. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We go through the work list and we do it on your time. We do maybe about 4 or 5 iterations, right? So we do that on Zoom. We do about 4 or 5 iterations on this is what I need to start helping you form your packet. And that packet, again, is about a 16-page to 17-page packet that you can use at the end to start immediately applying for grants. All it is your operational overview, basically your organizational overview that tells people what you're about and why you're doing your nonprofit. You have your program pillars spelled out. You have your operational budget, capital campaign, donor levels, and then we work on your articles of incorporation and bylaws. We finish all of that in 2 weeks. and we've done the filings on the front end. So your filings are being processed as we actually are working on your organizational overview. So all of that costs $1,000. The additional fee on top of that is the IRS fee, which is about $275. And the other thing is every single state has a certificate of formation fee that's about $25. 25 to 35. I think in Georgia it was 35, in Texas it's 25. So altogether, Robert, people are looking at around $12.75 to get that done. And yes, I do have a plan. I actually break it in half, so people can, for my fee of $1,000, they can do 500 and 500, which is the most seamless, right? They can also break it down into 250, 250, 250, 250, but it's still paid out in 2 weeks. And so whatever is easiest on people to get started, they have to at least start with 250 or 500, and we go ahead and get going. Okay. But I make it very affordable and very accessible for people. I also think that they get a lot of value out of that, because the learning and understanding that we need, what I think is the most helpful is that really when you have a nonprofit, I was telling Janie this the other day, I think nonprofits help you align your purpose and passion. A lot of times people spend their entire life working for other people or doing something that they don't love. You know, when you're doing something that you love, it doesn't feel like work, you know, and so you can still get paid as much or more in a nonprofit, more than you're making in a regular business, and do something that you love. You just need to know the way. And most of the times we don't know the way because nobody's ever shown us that we can do this, you know what I mean, and how to do it. So the alignment is important, because I think that's where work-life balance comes from. Like, people see me, I own 100% of my time. I never get up and have to answer to anybody. I don't have to ask off. When my friend asked me the other day to go to California for her birthday, I said, let's get the tickets. You know what I mean? Because I can work from anywhere. Literally, I can be in California. Last year I was in California for 2 months and I was still working. You know, but the point is that how do you do that? How do you you know, design a life that you want to live, still make an impact, and still make the money that you know you need as a grown, mature person? You know what I mean?
Now, when they after you finish with them, do they walk away with any type of reference materials, or can they continue to call you? Also,
they continue to call, and they get plugged into a page, a community page that I plug a lot of grants and stuff on, because I want to nurture. I nurture people continuously after that. It's not like you like, okay, we're done, goodbye. You know, there's a page, and I have it as a private page on purpose. I actually have two. I have two private pages, and one is specifically for clients that I work with. And I really want them just to see things like GuideStar, right? GuideStar is extremely important for nonprofits. That's one of the ways that you can always get noticed for grants. Most people don't even know about GuideStar because some people have a piece of paper that they finished with somebody else. Oh yeah, I've been having a nonprofit forever. So they've never been shown what to do with the nonprofit, you know what I mean? Or how to plug it in. GuideStar is one of those ways where people know this is a transparent organization. They file their stuff on time every year, right? It's almost like the Better Business Bureau for nonprofits. So if somebody can go there, they can easily find you. That if you're on GuideStar, they already know that you have your 501c3, because you can't even get on GuideStar without it. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of those types of things after people are finished.
Now, every time I need to file for a grant, do I need to come to you, or do you furnish me with the framework or outline that I need to go ahead and do it on my own?
I like to show people the way. I like to teach people how to fish, because I don't want to be fishing for them, right? So I like to teach them how to fish instead of give them the fish, or I definitely don't want them relying on me for fishing, right? And for eating. So I teach them how to eat. And so the good thing about grants these days, I am from the old school of writing grants, because I used to have to write grants from scratch. The other thing is I was an English major in college. So writing grants for me has always been easy. It's not easy for everybody. But what is easy and easier nowadays is that they have grant portals. And really, literally, okay, you see I'm sitting right here on my sofa. My TV is right here. My big 65-inch TV is right there. And I have my computer right here, and I'm applying for grants on a regular basis while watching TV. It's like applying for jobs. So grant portals are extremely important because they sift through and they ask you the information that they need. It's not old school anymore. They say, tell us a little bit about your organization. So, but if you have an organizational packet already, which is what we finish in my process, you can go pull your organizational overview. You don't have to go reconstruct it every time. You don't have to write it every time you're writing a different grant. You go pull that bad boy up, upload it, and you're done. If they say, give us your operational budget, that's what stops people from getting grants most of the time because they don't have one. But if you already have it constructed, you go upload your operational budget and you are finished with a grant in about 20 minutes. You know what I mean? While you're watching MSNBC, like I do most of the time, you know?
Yeah, that's not bad. But so Janie, talk to us a little bit more about the nonprofit you guys have, and give me some projections, like let's say maybe a year down the road or 2 or 3 years down the road, where you think you're taking this nonprofit.
We definitely want to grow it as big as we can. I'm a family nurse practitioner, so I've been in healthcare for almost 15 years. So, you know, this nonprofit is really, really just putting together everything that I've already done over the years. So I've recently done a couple mission trips to Nigeria. So my goal, honestly, because I feel like I've already filled that passion, I want to give the opportunity for other people to go. So providing the finances for other healthcare professionals to be able to go and provide care in some villages and stuff like that in Nigeria, things like that. Health is wide and vast. And so the goal is to connect all parts of health. And so that's spiritual, relational, physical, mental, all of it. So we got a lot of work to do.
Oh, well, that's good. Because I need to start one myself, but I've been a little hesitant because I didn't know if it had anything to do with credit or it was real labor intensive. Someone once told me though that they had a nonprofit and they were able to go to I think it was Fulton County Stadium where the Braves played at, and they offered them like a booth to sell stuff and worked out a deal where I think they split it 50-50. You ever heard of that, Remy? Places like that?
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do. I can tell you so many resources in Fulton County. You know, I used to live there and I started my dance studio there. I got grants when I was there from Fulton County Arts Council, from the Neighborhood Arts Council, from the Mayor's Discretionary Fund. I used to work in tandem with a lot of the places down in downtown Atlanta. The other thing is that there's a huge space for grants that you can go down if you ever have free time and you wanted to, called the Center for Nonprofits right downtown. The Center for Nonprofits, they have more grants than you can ever in your entire life ever receive. And they have them in these big giant binders. And a lot of times people don't go and look at those, you know, places for grants because they don't want to sit there and spend the time and be disciplined. But I do. I've always done that. And the same thing like 2 years ago in New Orleans, when I spent six months in New Orleans, there's a place called the Greater New Orleans Foundation. They don't allow you to take information out, but you can go in there and get as much information as you want to, and binders full, and computers full of grants. So, I mean, most cities have something like that, but you have to be, you know, looking for it, or you have to know that it's there. I know I got a lot of my grants in Atlanta from when I had my studio in Atlanta. I got a grant for a fax machine, literally. Some people that I didn't even know, they just sent me a check for a fax machine. I mean, that was from the Center for Nonprofits. I had a printer, a big floor model printer that printed out a bunch of for free, you know, from a grant. I mean, so there's grants for everything: money, supplies, in-kind donations, you know. But yeah, you can interface with a lot of those big structures and companies if you have a nonprofit. Let me give you a really huge example. This is great, and this just happened like in the last week. One of the very, very brand new nonprofits here in Dallas, Brazen Helping Lives Foundation, who I actually helped her too. She hasn't even gotten her first activity off the ground, but started getting paid immediately for the immigrants that just came up from the border that you keep seeing on the nightly news. 3,000, 5,000 immigrants that they have now, all these youth. They took all the youth from those people that just crossed the border and put them in K. Bailey Hutchison Convention Center in downtown Dallas. Well, one of our nonprofits, one of the ones I just helped, she went and to see what she could do and how she could help volunteer. She ended up being paid $20 an hour through her nonprofit to go help, right? In addition to that, an extra $1,000 a week for her efforts and her time, because they need that many nonprofits to help with these kids. You know what I mean? So they're paying nonprofits to really help deal with a problem that they don't really have an answer for. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, I mean, this is an immediate problem that the United States has because they don't have an immigration solution. But that's one of the ways that you can, that you made me think about that when you talked about, downtown Atlanta. But downtown Dallas, this is happening right now. And she's gotten so much money in from that already that, she was like, wow, I didn't even know I was really kind of going down there to volunteer, ended up getting paid through it, through her nonprofit.
And so once again, all monies that she would receive instantly turns into that 70-30 split.
Right. And it doesn't have to be 70-30. There's 70-30, meaning that if you're saying that 30 goes to administrative, like what I said before, yes, and the rest to programming. Yeah. To that degree. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when you're first starting out and you don't have any money, do the people who are running it, the CEO or whatever, do they even get paid? Because if we don't have any money, we haven't raised any money, then I guess we're just working on a promise per se.
You're not working on a promise. It depends on what kind of strategic plan you have, which is also why you need a mentor. So immediately when we finish ours, we do a launch. I mean, you do a launch and get as much money as you can through your initial launch. And that can be what I was telling you before was non-restricted funds. So you can immediately start paying yourself. You need to pay yourself and show that you're paying yourself in order to get respectable grants. So if you do a launch and you get $10,000 in and you put it all toward programming, that's mismanagement. It's mismanagement because you haven't paid yourself or the staff to do what needs to be done. And what I learned early on, let me tell you a mistake that I made in my 20s when I lived in Atlanta. I used to do so much and I used to think it was so formidable that I wasn't paying myself. I'm just, oh no, I do all this, I do all that, and I don't pay myself. Well, I missed a huge grant in Atlanta because I wasn't showing that I was paying myself and the staff in addition to the wonderful things that I was doing. And I was doing some wonderful things, but it was really mismanagement. And I didn't understand that in my 20s. I thought that was, like just showing like all of my efforts are going toward the vision, but that's not what people want to see. Immediately, when you start bringing money in, you need to put 25 to 30% toward administrative, operational, and the rest toward your goals. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So all the monies that are coming in, you need to be able to manage them and show that they're going to these respective areas on your budget.
Okay. So Russ, listen, you guys are launching tomorrow?
That's the
tentatively.
We have a few things to tie up, but yeah.
I mean, but tell the people like how they can get involved, or how you're going to launch. If you're going to be on social media or something like that. Give the people some direction in case they want to help out or be a part of it. How can they find you guys?
Yeah, so we're going to do a social media launch, but anyone right now can go to our website and donate if you like. bridgetohealthnow.org. Mm-hmm. And you could donate right there, but we plan to be accepting always Square, PayPal, Zelle, Cash App, and definitely you could donate right on the website right now.
Do y'all take food stamps?
Not yet.
So here's one for you, and here's one for Janie, right? Here's one for you, one for Janie, and one for anybody watching. This is a very easy way for us to really understand the power of collective economics, right? Cooperative economics and collective economics. So Janie is about to do a launch, and immediately with the groups that I work with, because a lot of us are in one investment group together also, when she does a launch, it's so much easier. Let's say her goal is $20,000, right? So the initial goal is $20,000. That might sound like a lot to somebody who doesn't just have 20 grand in their pocket right now. But if we got 1,000 people to donate $20, she can immediately have $20,000 in her nonprofit budget immediately in a week. And all of us have more than 1,000 people on our social media. So what I'm doing is trying to get better and get other people to understand the power of cooperative economics. And what we started last year with our investment group is we started a group of people who all have the same mindset, who understand that. So not only when somebody launches, do we all go donate, we all share that on our social media. So me times 5,000, another person times 5,000, another person times 5,000. Her launch is getting way, way out there, way farther than it would if it would just be her by herself. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of stuff that we need to understand as a people. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. The initial funding for something, whether it's nonprofit or for profit, can come from us working together a little better.
Right, but what do you say to people who say, "Well, nobody knows my nonprofit. Nobody thinks that nobody shares my vision, so therefore I'm not going to be able to raise any money." Is it necessary to have that charismatic person on your staff that can go out and talk to people and be camera ready and all of that stuff? What about the shy individual that has a passion for something but is just not social?
So for the person who's not as social, it's not that difficult. You can. There are other people who are. You know what I mean? There's always been that those different categories of people per se. So you might have somebody who might not be as camera ready, or somebody doesn't like to talk, or they like playing a role that is more in the background, but they have a passion to see something happen. And so how you construct a team becomes important. You might want to have somebody else that can get out there and push the marketing and push the promotions and stuff like that. You might want to connect. It doesn't take anything from me. I don't have to say anything. And I'm not saying me in particular. I'm saying someone who is shy, who might not. Let me give you a concrete example. I have a young lady who I just finished helping get her nonprofit within the last year. She's never on social media. As a matter of fact, her topic is not one that people really might want to talk about a lot. Her topic is her passion and purpose is helping women who have survived abuse, because she was abused. So she still to this day does not want to be in the forefront and she launched. She had an amazing launch. She just got a huge donation from all these different nonprofits that knew she was looking for clothes for women. For one portion of her nonprofit is going to be able to clothe women and their children when they're leaving a home and they leave with nothing but the clothes on their back. So she's just got a huge donation. She's not out there on Facebook. She's not out there on social media. She has a social media, but she doesn't use it. So her connection is through other people that do have it, and getting that mouthpiece out there and helping other people tell her story for her. You know what I mean? So it can happen. It's really about connection.
So basically, would you say that everybody, not everybody, but if you're in the business realm, you need a nonprofit, or who exactly would you say needs a nonprofit?
So I think people should start a nonprofit if they want to do something that is impactful. If they want to do something that is impactful, and they also want to do something where they can create a salary that they respect, and they can do both of those things at the same time. You're giving back, you're making an impact, but you're also creating a salary stream for yourself that's respectful. I think those are the people who should start a nonprofit. I don't think anybody should start a business if they don't have the fortitude and the discipline, personal discipline, or, the ability to listen and learn. I don't think anybody should start a business, because business is not for everybody, for profit or nonprofit.
That's true. That's true. Well, I think we've had a very, very interesting conversation. But Janie and Russell, once again, give them the website, and give the people something to encourage them to start their own nonprofit.
I was just going to say that Oluremi mentioned alignment, and I think that nonprofits should only be about impact and passion, because it is a nonprofit organization. You are in it for the impact and not necessarily to make a profit. Everything that you're getting in is going right back out to programming. So I would definitely say that it has to be something that's very near and dear to your heart, and almost a calling. Like you have to be called to do the work because it's work. Everybody that's on the board, that's on my board, understand that we all have a part to play, and we're all here to step up to the plate. Again, we are going to launch in the next day or so, Bridge to Healthcare. And it is to bridge all people of all socioeconomic levels to access to healthcare on all levels: mental, physical, spiritual, and relational.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oluremi, last parting words. I mean, you dropped a whole bunch of bombs today. I know there are a lot of people who are going to be blessed by this, this episode, and I'm sure people will be calling you up. I had a couple of people, definitely, Black women who were interested in knowing exactly what type of grants were out there for them. So, last parting words. What do you have to say?
So I can, people can join me on Thursdays at 7 p.m. for a free webinar. It's via Zoom, so they would have to connect with me either on Facebook, social media at Spark and Flow with Oluremi on IG, or Oluremi Sano on Facebook, or they can send an email to Spark and Flow with Oluremi. And I'll give you that, Robert. I'll give you that information you can share with people. But if they want to attend a Zoom and learn information, actually go over the exact information that we use on the work list on Thursdays, every Thursday at 7 p.m. And they can join that for free, take notes, and understand what the scope of the work is that we're going to do, and learn how to get started.
Okay. Well, Russell, Jamie, Oluremi, thank you. And hopefully, we can do it all again, and Oluremi, I'm going to be calling you because I definitely want my nonprofit. Once again, guys, thank you for coming on. Russ, hey, Russ, you going to be on next week?
Whenever you're ready, man, I'm here.
All right. We're going to have to change it to the Robert Rush show.
The Robert Rush. Yeah. Come on, man.
Like the old days. Guys.
When I'm not on Matters of the Heart and Soul.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Right quick, Jamie, can you plug that book, please?
Yes, 7 Steps to Mastering Emotions. Get it on Amazon. Just go out, get it. It's so important. We are energy beings, and we have to learn how to master ourselves before we can do anything in this world, including your money.
Yeah, sounds good. Guys, thank you so very much, and hopefully we'll do it all again.
Thank you for having us.
All right, peace.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.